I find a lot of people playing music today in Irish music, and they fall back in the same kind of formulas, and they don't look for that nice subtlety that you hear, like in the playing of someone like Michael Coleman.
Oh, the older players indeed, Morrison.
Yeah. Well, that's right, or like whoever.
Yeah.
And that's I suppose that's the biggest influence in Michael Coleman.
Do you find that modern players of today there's a sameness about it?
Yeah, a lot of them are plateau musicians.
What do you mean?
Well, I find a lot of them, once you hear where they start from, it's the same at the end and it's the same at the middle. So they don't bring you up high and they don't bring you down low. They keep you, so if you hear the first 6 bars of a dance tune or of a selection of music, you've heard the whole thing and there's no change.
Lacking colour and...
Yeah.
Do you find that, Nicholas?
Yeah. I do, but I wouldn't be too critical of it, because I think if people have technique first as they grow older and mature and experience life, go through life, that a lot of that comes in with age and time,
Well, one of the things I used to notice some years ago when your father was alive, indeed, that younger musicians would come in sometimes and there was always a sort of a gap. There was never sort of a coming together. And particularly, I would in some ways blame the younger musicians insofar as that the music wasn't fast enough for them,
right?
And there weren't enough pyrotechnics in the music to satisfy them. And yet there was all this other music which is incredibly subtle going on, and it's gone now. In many ways.
In many ways,
they missed out.
I think what the problem is, of course, we can't generalise as we talk. It's only certain people, but I think some people associate a lift in the music with speed. And the tunes themselves, as far as I can see, have their own built-in lift, and you hear it actually when you play the tunes very, very slowly. It has that pulse. It pushes it along. And the beauty of playing a piece of music anyhow, I feel, is that you not only are able to play the tune yourself and give yourself a chance to play, but you're giving the listener a chance to hear what you've played,
right? As
opposed to playing the tune as fast as you can to finish.
I understand you.
It's interesting too that somebody like Michael Coleman, with all his ability, didn't turn his back on older musicians, but in fact followed them round, learned them, and to the end of his life he could say, well, I learned that tune from Phil O'Byrne, I learned that tune from Johnny Gorman the Piper, and so on. So he took. I mean, he innovated a lot, certainly, but he took the tradition first, and then he added his contribution to it.
I think another thing to be said
not doing that
about the older musicians, people like Neil O'Boyle, Patrick Kelly, Michael Coleman, your father indeed, they weren't great men for the rules either, these so-called rules. They'd put in the extra bar if they felt it was required. Tommy Potts, all those great musicians. They'd always put in the extra little bit in, so if it suited them.
Because Neil O'Boyle in the 50s, there's a broadcast of Neil O'Boyle talking about the state of Irish music in the 50s. And he said it's been influenced by this jungle music, this modern music at the time. He described it as jungle music, and he reckoned that it was finished in the 50s.
Right. And here we are in the 90s. It's gone to. Listen, play another tune.
Yeah. Well, here I go again. I'm going to play 2 hornpipes called The Stage hornpipe and the Western. 2 tunes again recorded by Michael Coleman. Tunes that you don't hear very often, because we hear the standards, and of course Michael Coleman's music has influenced us, and we play tunes at sessions and we don't necessarily remember sometimes where they came from. But he played many different tunes, and these are 2 that you mightn't hear too often. But I like to play them. Sorry.